Some of you may remember me saying how one of my hobbies included board gaming. Not your typical casual family-friendly style games like Monopoly or Sorry, or maybe Snakes and Ladders, but rather, I always have a hard time describing what kind of board games I am referring to when talking about this particular interest of mine. I believe most people in the board gaming community call them modern strategy board games or hobby board games. As you can see on screen, my family and I own a lot of board games, and this is even an older photo. This photo was taken in 2018, and our collection has almost doubled in size since then. The reason I say our collection rather than my own is because most of these games have been bought by my dad. He's been a board game fan since childhood. A lot of these board games, however, were also bought for my sister and I as gifts for special occasions, and we all play them together with friends and family. So that's why it's really my dad/our family collection of board games. Now, why am I talking about board games all of a sudden? Well, oftentimes, instead of buying a gift for someone for a special occasion, like for a birthday or Christmas, I will use my artistic talents and skills to craft a gift for them. It was my dad's birthday many months ago, even before I started my YouTube channel. But I just remembered I had this footage now, so I decided to go and edit it now into a video. What did I make for my dad? Well, I like to make practical art a lot. Art that can serve a purpose that is more than just something to be looked at. Board games have a lot of pieces. Anyone who's played them can understand what I am talking about. It can be a little annoying to have just piles of these board game pieces just sitting on the table, merging and mixing into other piles of pieces, becoming very disorganized. Having a board game on the table with a lot of unsorted pieces has the potential to look a little messy, to say the least. Sure, you can buy tiny small cups like these clear ones we own here, but what if I could create something a little more thematic? Then I had an idea that would make a perfect gift for my dad: thematic board game piece holders. I bought these 3 really small sectioned off wooden boxes from a garage sale for extremely cheap from a while ago. I was meaning to give them a second life for quite some time. These boxes will be the key foundation for my board game piece holders. First things first, give them a thorough coating of brown acrylic paint. Next, using various shades of brown, a bit of cream and orange, I am going to create some artificial wood grain using watercolor pencils. For an extra little realistic effect, I've also added dots of black acrylic paint in the 4 corners of each of the panels of wood. This is to represent some nails. I did this with some black acrylic paint. I made sure the seams of these panels lined up to where the dividers were inside the box. I divided the panels in half widthwise down the side of the box just for extra fun detail. In order to do this and achieve a straight edge, I tape the side with masking tape down the middle and draw along the straight edge braided this way, removing the tape once done. Sometimes you can draw with watercolor pencil dry, but it doesn't always work on all surfaces. Sometimes it also doesn't draw on dark enough. You can simply wet the tips of the watercolor pencil crayons by dipping them in water or wetting a brush and brushing the tips. In addition to enhancing the wooden look of these boxes, I want to add a type of textile to hold the board game pieces in. What type of textile? I will get to that and show you shortly. For now, I need to prepare something for the textile to grip and hang onto, little wooden pegs. I cut off approximately 1 centimeter long pieces from a wooden skewer and glue them to the top of each corner of the box, including the corners made by the dividing pieces in the middle, using super glue. Then I go ahead and paint those brown too. Now hopping over to the other bigger wooden box that I want to work with. These ones have larger sections to them overall, but they aren't as deep as the sections in the smaller wooden box. Now I've already sort of damaged one of the boxes experimenting with it earlier, trying to make something else. So I think I will have to salvage it and repurpose it and combine it with the other untampered wooden box of the same size. If I stack and glue them on top of one another, I can make the sections in them deeper, allowing more board game pieces to fit inside them. The base of the already used box has been severely damaged, with these holes in it and all. Therefore, with some pliers and as gently as possible with an X-Acto knife, I will pull the dividing sections out and remove the outer walls. Then, taking some wood glue, I glue the top edges of the untampered wood box and place the just removed wooden walls and sections from the other box on top of them. Here it is after about a day, fully dry. As you can see, I applied the glue very copiously. It is very noticeable, but not to worry. I made sure to put the most of it on the interior edges of the box because I'm going to cover the interior up with the final stages of this project. I also put a lot of glue on because I wanted to avoid the box coming apart at seams to where I had glued it. I need it to be very sturdy. Of course, following in the footsteps of my first box, this larger one needs those wooden pegs glued on the top of each corner too, in order to secure that textile material I plan to add later. These small pieces kept on coming off. After the super glue dried, I had to reinforce the connection with Elmer's glue and let them dry. Now moving on to the brown coat of acrylic paint, just like the first one. Then again, using a combination of paint and watercolor pencil crayons, I sketch on a wood grain pattern. This time, I didn't need a piece of masking tape to draw a straight line down the middle to create multiple wooden panels because there was already a natural seam guiding me, created by combining those two boxes together earlier. Now, what is next? What did I mean by covering up the bottoms of the box? What did I mean by stretching a textile over each section and attaching them to the wooden dowels that I created? Well, I wanted to give these board game piece holders an old-fashioned look to them, so I'd figure I'd add animal hide style lining to them. Not with real fur, of course. I'm going to cut out small pelt-shaped pieces from a second-hand blanket I own that will look like an animal pelt once I am done painting it. I googled pictures of these animal hides, and now I have a reference ready for how I should cut and paint these pieces of fabric. I roughly outline where I want to cut the fabric and go ahead and cut out that hide-like shape. Also making sure to cut holes into each corner of the hide to wrap around those wooden pegs I glued onto the corners of my box. And there they are, a stack of nicely shaped pieces of furry fabric. Since they are all cut now, I move on to the painting step. For Pouring and mixing 2 shades of brown, one light and one dark, I lightly brush on some layers of paint, starting with the lighter color first, then the darker one, mimicking how the color shapes itself on the real-life examples that I have in the reference photos that I looked up earlier. I don't want to soak my brush with too much paint here. That's why I am wiping away a lot of excess paint on the newspaper. Applying too much paint to the fabric will harden it and cause it to lose that softness. Here are the animal hide-like pieces, all dried and lined up, ready to go to the next stage. I kinda wanted to keep them like this at this stage. They looked so nice as is. They looked pretty much exactly like an animal's hide, but I already have a purpose for them. This is how I plan to use them, stretching over the individual sections of the wooden boxes, the little pegs supporting the corners of the hide through the tiny slips that I made in the fabric earlier. It doesn't stop here though. There are a few more steps I have in mind. First of all, after placing them in just to test how they would fit, I discovered they were a bit too large. I had to trim the edges slightly in order to not overflow over the edges of the box too much. Secondly, I wanted to prevent the fabric from moving around whenever someone would go in to grab a board game piece from the holder. I can only imagine that would be annoying. So to prevent that, I'm going to harden the fabric in place. How am I going to do that? I'm going to paint a coating of glue onto the back, unpainted side of each piece of fabric and then place one into each section of the box, molding it into shape until I like how it fits. And there it is! Now the fabric lining the interiors of the box are very stiff and immovable. Since the glue was only on the bottom side of the fabrics, the top side maintains its softness. It's perfect to prevent them from sliding around inside, yet still looking and feeling like animal furs. It's pretty much done at this point after letting the glue dry, but I do want to do one more thing to these containers. I worry about the containers sliding around too much on the tables when playing board games. To minimize movement, I take this black, clingy, almost felt-like fabric and glue it to the bottom of my container. I don't exactly know which type of fabric this is, but it's not very slippery, so it's perfect for this project. After gluing it on, I let it dry. In the meantime, as the bottom dries, I paint on a coat of matte Mod Podge sealer to increase the durability of the paint job that I did. I let that dry too, in addition to the drying glued on fabric bottom. After letting the glue dry, it's time to remove the excess fabric from the bottom of the container. I need to cut as closely as possible to the bottom edge of the box to prevent any black fabric from sticking out and showing. And there we go, a nicely fit fabric bottom to the board game piece holder. Now time to do the same treatment to the second container, gluing on the fabric and applying the sealer to the paint job. If you are making something similar, just be careful how wet you are applying the sealer to the watercolor pencil art. It can wash away some details. In this case, I did want to tone down the colors slightly, but that may not be your intention with your own project. Finally, my dad's birthday gift is done here. 2 custom board game piece holders. Practical and adds a bit more theme to a game. Well, to most fantasy and historical themed games at least, but they'd still probably be cool to use for a sci-fi themed game, for example, if you have no other interesting containers. Why not? Maybe that should be my next art gift to my dad. A pair of sci-fi themed board game piece holders similar to these ones. Really proud of how I used my board game piece holder here for this game setup. This is the game called Wild Gardens, a game about foraging for ingredients and using those ingredients to cook succulent meals and serve them to visitors. There were exactly 8 ingredients in this game, just the right amount to fill this 8-section holder I made. It also fits the nature theme extremely well, I think. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed yet another crafting video from your friendly crafting angel here. Thank you all for sticking around, and I figured I'd ask this time, if you enjoyed this video, consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. It would mean a lot. That's all for now. See you tomorrow, whenever that might be. Goodbye!